Welcome back to Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier, sponsored by Four Paws Restaurant, the iconic fine dining restaurant in St. Paul, Minnesota, located in a beautifully restored 1870 mansion with wonderful food, attentive professional service, and Hoyt Hill is the sommelier. Um, as is often been the case in my life, I was in the right place at the right time last night, and it was a privilege. A very, very special evening with friends, with good friends, at the home of very good friends, um, for dinner with multiple vintages of Chateau, Montelena, Cabernet Sauvignon. Um, it wasn't a tasting; it was a drinking. we we didn't just taste the wine; we drank the wines with dinner. We started with the Magnum of 1870, not 1870, 2015 Chateau Montelena Chardonnay. Of course, the 1973 Chateau Montelena Chardonnay was the white wine that won the Judgment of Paris in 1976, put on by Steven Spurrier. And it made the evening even more special that Michael Mondavi joined us by Zoom from Napa to talk about the impact of the Judgment of Paris on Napa Valley wine industry, uh, reputation. That what he said was it was like a second repeal of prohibition. To give you an idea of the dramatic impact of the Judgment of Paris, which the 1973 vintage of Chateau Montelena Chardonnay won for the white wines. The Magnum of 2015 was just a wonderful, lovely, superb, excellent Napa Valley Chardonnay. Then with dinner, we moved on to the 2006, 2007, 2008, 2013, 2014, and 2021 Chateau Montelena Estate Cabernet Sauvignon. Um, I suggested because they're all kind of similar wines in their power and structure and intensity, that bouncing back and forth between different vintages to try to taste them in some kind of logical order was not really what would work best. So I suggested that we just taste them from from oldest to youngest, because the oldest would be more developed, more mature, and less powerful. And the 2021 would be, big, rich, tannic, powerful, masculine, intense wine. It would be a mistake to taste it first, because then the 2014, which would follow, would taste insipid in comparison. So anyway, we started with the 2006, the 2000. Now I did do the research. All of these wines were rated by everyone who rates wine, um, in the high 90s. Every vintage was rated in somewhere between 95 and 100 points. Um, I hope I didn't let that color my impression of the wines, but they were all superb. The 2006 was the most complete. It was maturing. It was mature. The tannins are pretty much fully resolved. Everything's in harmony. But to say it's mature is doing it an injustice, because I think it has, in a cool wine cellar, has a 30-year life ahead of it, which will only become more and more profound. But the 2006 was extraordinary, um, mature, fully developed, wonderful, archetypal Napa Valley Cabernet. The 2007, I thought, tasted dramatically more mature, even though it was younger. Um, Same, really, you know, we're splitting hairs here. It was just another wonderful wine. I think it um, um, is also mature, but also has a long life ahead of it. If I had the 2006 and 2007 in my cellar, I would be drinking the 2007 now and waiting on the 2006. The 2008 was again extraordinary. Um, uh, I thought the most developed of the three vintages, the three older vintages. Um, Remarkable, tannins fully resolved, basically mature, excellent, archetypal, iconic Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. Um, Kind of beginning to really show its best. It's a marvelous wine. Any one of that trio of wines is very, very special. Now, it's an interesting period because in 2004, after after the Wine Spectator had routinely, and every other critic had routinely given Chateau Montelena very, very high scores for their uh, Cabernets. James Laube, who covered California wine for the Wine Spectator, said in the magazine that the cellar at Chateau Montelena was infected with cork taint, trichloroanisole, and as a result, every wine that they made was cork tainted. Um, it's interesting. It was interesting at the time that they had routinely given Chateau Montelena these high scores, but all of a sudden they decided that all the wines were corked. Um, and then in 2008, there was a reported sale of Chateau Montelena to the owners of Chateau Coste d'Estournel in Saint Estèphe in Bordeaux, which was never finally realized. And there was a lot of conjecture about why. Um, the Barrett family, who owned Chateau Montelena, said continued to to claim that the sale fell through because the people that owned Chateau Coste d'Estournel couldn't really fulfill their financial obligation. Chateau Coste d'Estournel, there was conjecture at the time that Chateau Coste d'Estournel pulled out of the sale, the purchase, because of the problem with cork taint in the winery. Um, well, who knows? But the reality is that the sale didn't go through, and the Barrett family still owns the winery, and that makes it unique in Napa Valley, California, somewhat unique in that the people that built the winery and made the wine, really made the winery famous, who created this winery that makes extraordinary wine, um, still own it. It's not been sold to an Italian conglomerate or luxury goods brand or a large, collect treasury wine estates or Constellation Brands or someone. The Barrett family who made Chateau Montelena what it is still own it and still make extraordinary wines as we experienced last night. So then when we tasted that 2013, I thought it was uh, remarkably different from the other vintage we tasted. I thought it had this incredibly roasted meat character, um, iron and like rare venison kind of aroma on the nose. Um, it was the most rich and dense of the vintages we tasted. Of course, it was dramatically younger than the 2006, 2007, 2008. But it was kind of an outlier. To me, it was superb. It was just very different from the other vintages. Um, and we drank the 2014, which in my research, seeing what Parker and various different people had said about these different vintages, it was interesting that there was no press on the 2014. And you kind of wonder why that is. Is it because the winery didn't submit samples of the 2014 for tasting for the press? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I couldn't find um, any ratings of 2014 by anyone that matters, um, which is a quandary. But it was again another really excellent wine. I mean, it was the same quality as the other vintages. It was sweeter in the finish than the other vintages. Um, it had a sweet kind of red fruit character that the other vintages didn't really have to the same extent. So it was unusual. It was again like the 2013, very unusual in the tasting. And a very, very high quality wine, just different from the other vintages. Um, with a long life, both the 13 and 14 are youthful wines. Then we finished with the 2021, which is, of course, 2021 is a very great vintage in the Napa Valley. When I was out there in September, I heard constantly about how great the 2021s were. I tasted Schaefer Hillside Select, Stag's Leap Wine Cellars, Cask 23, Ridge Montebello, uh, Geyserville, Lytton Springs. I tasted all these 2021s. It was, they were all, you know, extraordinary wines. Um, I don't know, 100-point wines or close to 100-point wines or more than 100-point wines, but they were all, everything I tasted from 2021 was special. Of course, I was only at the best wineries, so they would be special. But the 2021 Chateau Montelena Cabernet Sauvignon was in lockstep with those wines. It's a obviously very, very young, very, very powerful, very masculine, very, very tannic wine that needs a long time in the cellar to be fully developed, and for the tannins to be resolved and everything to be in harmony. But if you give it time in your wine cellar, you will be rewarded enormously, hugely by a very, very, really glorious wine. So that's my take on 2006, 2007, 2008, 2013, 2014, and 2021 Chateau Montelena Cabernet Sauvignon. Um, they were, it was, well, as I said, I was in the right place at the right time. It seems to always happen to me in my life. Stop by and see us at Four Paws in St. Paul if you're ever in the Twin Cities. I promise you, you will have a wonderful dinner. Thank you very much.